Welcome to the Culture is Healing podcast, brought to you by Checking In. At Checking In, we create customized wellness apps for First Nations communities, guided by relationship, trust, and community knowledge. We are also grateful to share our Pathways to Healing tool, which supports frontline and support staff in helping community members access healing houses more quickly and with care. To learn more about our work, please visit www.checkingin.co. Thank you for being here and for spending time with us. I hope you enjoy the episode. Aichka. Ait squail siam nisiatya, each while, antapa huokwalitza, anits dominus halalt, kawatsan, lyaxan. Hello, everyone. My traditional name is Huokwalitza, and my English name is George Harris Jr., and I'm calling you today from my home here in Staminas. This is the community that my father's from. This is the community that my mother married into. And this is the community that my siblings and I were raised in. I belong to George Harris Sr. and my late mother, Sylvia Harris. And my grandparents from my father's side of my family are the late Lawrence and Irene Harris. And my grandparents from my mom's side of my family are the late Bernard and Nora George. And my familial connections to Halalt come from my mom, Sylvia, and my grandma, Nora. And my connections to Kowitson come from my grandpa, Bernard. And through both sides of my family, I have familial connections to Lyaxan and the name Huokwalitza. It's a name that's been passed down for many generations throughout my father's side of my family. And I have the honor and privilege of being able to carry that name along with my father, as quite a few other family members as well. And thank you for taking the time to be with us here today. Once again, my name is Huokwalitza. I'm the host of the Culture is Healing podcast. And I have the honor and privilege of being able to share this space with my friend Dianna today. And I'd love to open the floor for Dianna to share her introduction with you all today. Aichka. Dianna?
Thank you. So I am Dianna Smith. I am from the Danakta First Nation, and from my father's side, I reside here in Campbell River on the Weewakam First Nation. I also have Polynesian and Irish ancestry, and I'm happy to be here today.
Aichka. Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and sitting in circle and sharing a conversation. And we've had the opportunity over the last year or so to build this friendship that we have, and share some of those family connections that we share. And I know my cousin has married one of your relatives as well, and so there's some overlap, and we also have the opportunity to connect over some cultural stuff and some work, and also obviously a lot of our communities, we travel around quite a bit for soccer and other events, so there's definitely a lot of overlap, and it's been so amazing over this last year so to get to know you and get to know a little bit about the work that you do, and I appreciate your time here today. Ichika.
Thank you.
Yeah, and as we're I was loving to share a little bit about our culture and all the things that make our traditional ways of being so special. We have our cultures that really connect us back to who we are and where we come from, and always having that opportunity to share about our culture is something that's so powerful, and it brings so much healing to a lot of our people. And our culture holds so much power to bring healing for our people. And so when I talk about more about culture is healing, when I say that, what does that bring up for you when I say culture is healing?
It brings up like really just a lot about um, being kind and being patient with people. I've had the privilege and honor of witnessing some elders who are just giving and open and supportive to everyone, and have this ability to really bring people together. Um, and even for myself, being like, oh, I have an idea, an elder telling me I have an idea, and next thing you know, I'm full in on this idea, and we're bringing people together, and we're doing some sort of community event, or helping out with a funeral, or
Mm,
um, helping out in a potlatch. Just the ability to bring people together in a kind and gentle way um, is really what I think of it. Now, my husband's perspective is really, living off the land, and drumming and singing, and more cultural stuff. But um, I tend to kind of bring it back to creating that sense of community and safety for people, allows them to explore those other options, right, of singing or dancing, and makes them feel comfortable and included. Um, yeah, so I feel like it kind of overflows into the work that I do, into, with my family, with community, just to always kind of show up with an open heart, and be patient and understanding of where people are at. Um, and that just brings people in, and that energy and behavior is reciprocated. Um, yeah, which makes, those events and those um, situations that much more enjoyable for everybody. Yeah.
mhm. Yeah, that's like so powerful when we have those opportunities for connection, and that the reciprocal relationship like you're sharing. And I remember having my own um, opportunity to be like a support person in community for work that I'd done. And I had the opportunity to help a lot of people as they were navigating, trying to go to treatment, and some of the processes that were going into that to try and help them through applications, and then also
Mhm.
having the opportunity to like walk alongside them as they're navigating all of the steps to get into treatment. And seeing some healing houses have a requirement for um, you know a set number of sessions with a counselor, and then all of the um, opportunities to having to engage and do some health tests, and all of the other things required. And so I had the opportunity to support some of my community members through that process, and it was very very rewarding for me to have a helping hand in that work. And over the last year or so, you've shared a few stories here and there of your own journey to being that support person in community. And yeah, just love to give you the opportunity to share a little bit about that work that you had done.
Yeah. Yeah, really meeting people where they're at. I was working in a medical office there a few years ago, and clients come in, and they're requesting a service, and you kind of put it back on them, like, oh, you have to call the dental office, or call the eyeglass place and make an appointment. And we could hand out the information of what's covered, and how to access these services. But sometimes people will come back and still not, they still have not accessed the services that they're requiring. And they're asking again, and after so many times, it's like, okay, there must be a barrier here. There must be something else that I can do.
Mm.
So sometimes having to make that call for the client. I had a particular client who was trying to get dentures. His dentures were broken. He had them crazy glued together, um, and he needed these dentures. He's diabetic, and so I had to call the dental office and book an appointment. It turned out that there was he had missed several appointments, so they didn't want to book him, and but we managed to get him in. We managed to go through the process and get his dentures replaced, which made a world of difference to his eating habits, his confidence, and that. But through the process, we became really good friends, and sometimes he would just pop into the office just to chat with me about whatever was going on in his life, and um, would refer him to the nurse. Maybe the nurse needed to look at his feet or, check his glucose, whatnot. But over time, we became really good friends, and I was kind of his go-to person at the health office. So,
Mm.
um, it wasn't long after that he popped in and he wanted to now start monitoring his diabetes. So we hooked him up on the glucose monitor that you wear on your arm, and um, yeah, got him in with the nurse, got the doctor to write a script and whatnot, and got that going. And then he was feeling much better. He's got
Mm.
his teeth now. He's managing his diabetes, keeping them in a nice range and whatnot. And many months pass, and he's doing well. And then he comes in and he decides he wants to go to treatment. And so we're like, well, this is great. We'll hook him up with a counselor and that, and off he went to treatment. And that was a real lesson for me, that just being patient and being kind and meeting him where he's at, with no judgment in that, just baby steps. I mean, this took well over a year before he went to treatment, but all of these little steps were very important in helping build that relationship and trust, and getting him to where he wanted to be. um, yeah, and he went off to treatment, and after that, he was living up north. And at Christmas time, I had given him my personal phone number at one point, because we were organizing flights for him to go up north for treatment, and the flights just happened to be leaving on a Saturday, and I didn't want him to be stranded in the airport
Mm.
in Vancouver, if there was a delay or whatever. And so I gave him my personal phone number and said, "You just call me if anything goes sideways." He never did call me. He went through, everything went fine. But then at Christmas time, I would get this text from him: "Merry Christmas. Hope you're
Mm.
doing well." And for a few years, that was the only time I heard from him, was this little text at Christmas time. And yeah, it just kind of warms your heart, right? Like, you've made this friend for life just through being kind and really kind of helping someone out, in a way that seemed like, he's an adult. He could do these. He could find these services himself. He could navigate this, but clearly there was some barrier that it wasn't working, and so we stepped in and made it happen.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's I had in my previous work, having that, being that one of those support people in community, I very much had a relationship like that as well, where I was working with a dad, and he was in the process of being like reunified with his family, and so we walked alongside him through some of those hard times, and for some of those like lonely times, and just there to be one of those people in his corner,
Yeah.
and one of the things that always was said was like, we can't do the work for you, but we can be there with you.
Hmm.
And yeah, and so like I helped you know with this application process for treatment, and kind of walking through all of that, and like helping out when he was kind of going through that detox phase, and some of the hardships that came along with that, and then so we managed to like get this father away for treatment, and he came home, and I remember one evening he called me like quite late, but unfortunately I missed the call.
Mm,
I was already sleeping, and it was my work phone, and yeah, I called him back the next day and just said, "Hey man, just want to check on you. See, I saw that I missed your call. Give me a shout back." And then later that day he was like, "Yeah, sorry, it was just kind of it was a rough night." He's like, it was a Friday night, and I was alone in my home, and normally this is the time I'd be drinking,
mm,
and I'm trying to find the strength to keep going in this journey, and I was like, oh, okay, well, let's meet up, like let's get together like next week, and so then later on that week it was a Wednesday, and so I arranged with like him and me and his drug and alcohol counselor to come and meet, and we're very fortunate that we have a um like a sweat lodge in right by our health building, and that's
mm,
kind of where we had been meeting, and so we got the fire going in there, and we didn't have like a sweat ceremony, but we were just it was a nice place to like sit and talk, and it was very private. There's no windows, and so it's just a very nice place, and just helping him through this like post healing care that he was needing. He'd gone away for treatment and came home, and so we asked him like um when you were gone for treatment, like when's the time that you felt the strongest
mm,
at the healing house? And he kind of hummed and hawed, and he goes, well, I don't know, I had a lot of fun when we were learning and singing all the songs from up there.
mm,
I was like, dude, that's cool. I'm like, awesome. I'm like, but unfortunately, dude, like I don't know any of the songs out that way. I was like, but I do have my drum in my car. I'm like, I know your counselor has his drum in his office. I'm like, you got your phone? He goes, yeah. I was like, well, why don't we all like, sing our Staminas Mistimo together? And I was like, this way, um, you when you're feeling low and it's late at night, and there's a higher chance that you're not going to be able to reach any of us.
mm,
We can play this our Staminas Mistimo that we're all going to sing together.
mm,
That way you'll hear like my voice, your counselor's voice, and your voice all here together, all walking through this journey with you. He goes, okay, yeah. And so we did that, and after the meeting we all parted ways, and I hadn't heard from him in a little bit, so I was like, wanted to check on him, and so I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks later I finally like called him up, and hadn't heard anything, so it was kind of the hoping that the no news was good news, and
mm,
yeah, and it was. I was very grateful that it was. And so I was just asking him like, hey man, just wanted to check how you been since our last meeting. He's like, oh, I've been doing pretty good, bro. Like, yeah, I've been listening to that song, and it gave me strength. And then he kind of chuckled and paused. He said, I'm getting real tired of listening to that one song though.
yeah.
So um, yeah, he kind of took it upon himself to start looking around for, and he um, looked to our relatives like down south of us, down in Cowichan, the Tsinghua dancers, and so he started listening to some of the songs that they have on YouTube and stuff like that. And so he found some strength there, and so that felt really good. And yeah, and it just made me think about this whole process of helping our relatives while they're going through these hard times and wanting to get on that red road. And and we've had the opportunity to share with you and your colleagues over the last year, about some of that work that we're doing and checking in to really help the helpers that are getting our relatives off into to treatment and stuff. And I know um, we've had the opportunity to present our pathways to healing tool to you and to Coral and to Kim. And I just wanted to get your thoughts to what really resonated with you about that pathways to healing tool that we presented.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's very cool. The my office was right beside one of the community wellness workers for a long while. And I was doing patient travel at the time, and he was doing treatment center applications. And we were sharing one copier. And sometimes we were backed up with the copier, kind of fighting over the copier because he's trying to submit like 3 or 4 different treatment center applications to see where he can get this client in. And at the time, some of those applications were different. I mean, a lot of them now have been standardized for certain treatment centers, but there's still a lot that have their own treatment center application. Um, so he would be faxing and waiting to different treatment centers. And I'm trying to get my hotel things faxed away, um, and so we got chatting about it one day, and he's explaining to me that sometimes it takes a few days before you can get accepted to a treatment center. Not to mention all the time that you've taken to get the TB skin test and get the doctor's portion of the application filled out, and the client's portion, it can be quite lengthy, and some clients can't sit and do that all in one session. It needs to be 2 or 3
Mm-hmm.
sessions, and because of where they're at, they may not make, the 3 appointments in one week. It might be stretched out over a couple of weeks and stuff. So it was becoming quite time consuming. And then the Ken, our community wellness worker, he just kind of started, had built relationships with different treatment center intake coordinators.
Mm-hmm.
So he kind of had the in some places, and they were now becoming his go-to treatment centers because he worked well with them. But meanwhile, there was still tons of treatment centers out there that could have beds available, but because he didn't have those relationships and know the easy way in and whatnot, he wasn't utilizing those. And so when you guys came with this pathways to treatment, I
Mm-hmm.
just thought it was brilliant, because if they can put all of the client's information into one place, and then it draws out the treatment centers that fit the criteria for that particular client, that saves hours of work for the treatment center for completing the treatment center application. Um, so then when you guys went through the demo in that, it just kind of seemed like a no-brainer. Like, yes, we have to do this. This will save time. Um, but I think the very first time that you guys came to see us was before connecting with FNHA, I think, and collaborating all of those treatment centers. And I remember leaving there thinking like, yeah, I don't know that they're ever going to get all those treatment centers in there. And like it seemed like a daunting task, and like way too much work. And I don't even think it was like 6 months later, hey, that you guys came back and were like, yeah, we've touched base with all the treatment centers, and yeah, we've created this. And yeah, and I was kind of blown away because um, that is a daunting task, and processes are different with each treatment center. And I remember in that meeting that I kept on saying that, like, but the treatment centers have to get on board, and the treatment centers have to, be keeping that up to date on what beds are available and whatnot. And now when we, uh, got onto it the other day, I was like, wow, this is exactly what you guys thought it was going to be. And it's, put in the criteria for the client, and boom, there's 4 treatment centers. One is available right now, one is available in 2 weeks. Um, and then you can start to work with the client's schedule, right? And figuring out if you have to
Mhm.
figure out flights or transportation. Sometimes that takes a bit of time too, what family can bring them. Do we have to do it in 1 day, 2 days? Like, are they flying? You know, can they leave? Do they have children? Like, a
Mm.
lot of things to consider. And so when that out of those 4 treatment centers, okay, this one that is, 1 to 2 week wait list is going to be better because we need some time to sort this out versus the one that could go right now, So, um, yeah, I can't wait to hear the feedback from Ken and Melissa on how well it's working, because I think it's a game changer myself.
Mm. No, Ichka. Yeah, it's kind of funny how we when Sean and I do have the opportunity to tell that story about how all of this kind of came out to be, and they ask from the Squamish Nation to build this tool. We're like all excited and we're like, yeah, we'll do it, and I think we were very um, naive in uh, the overall scope of the work.
Yeah.
But I think that was like a blessing in
Yeah,
disguise
yeah,
too, because it's like,
yeah.
holy mackerel, that was our team was very dedicated and very um, very focused on achieving that goal.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of organizations and communities and um, tools out there that have done anything like this. And so we're very happy to be able to help out where we can and
Mhm.
to provide that helping hand, because we've been in this drug and opioid crisis now for over a decade,
Mhm.
and this is something that this tool had been built to really break down some of those barriers that staff have brought forward in trying to help our people getting into treatment and to detox, and thinking about post healing and what that looks like, and just taking a briefer look at the continuum of care for people has been something that our team has really taken to heart.
Mhm.
And I'm really glad that we were able to um, walk into this project you know with a lot of hopes and dreams. And
Mhm.
I think that has really pushed us to get to this point now where we're having that opportunity to share with individuals like yourself and organizations like LKT, and bringing it into our communities to try and help out as best we can. And so thank you, and to Coral and to Kim for being those champions for us and at LKT there, and to really allowing us to bring our work into your community, and I really appreciate that. So,
Mhm.
Hka. Hello, everyone. I wanted to take a quick moment to share something we've been working on called Pathways to Healing. Community support workers and health staff are often chasing down information, coordinating across multiple services, filling out paperwork, while trying to stay present with the people they're walking alongside. It can feel like you're carrying a lot all at once. Pathways to Healing was built to help the helpers. It brings treatment navigation, referrals, and care coordination together all in one place. So your team can spend less time managing disconnected systems and more time doing what matters most. This platform was shaped by the realities of the work that people are doing on the ground every day. It's practical, it's easy to use, and it was built with community in mind. Because healing doesn't happen in isolation, and neither should the tools that support it. Right now, as a special gift to our podcast listeners, your first month is completely free. No contract, no commitment, just an open door to explore it and see if it is the right fit for your community or team. The link to sign up is right there in the show notes. I'd love for you to check it out. Heichka, thank you for being here. Yeah, and I know how in this work it can be, definitely difficult, and seeing some of our community members, and going through some of their hard times in their lives, and it's difficult because a lot of times we're related to a lot of these people, and I was going to ask you what teachings have been shared with you that really help give you the strength to continue to carry on, to be one of those support people in community, and really help give you strength to not only be there to support yourself and to support your family, but to support community members as well.
Hmm. I think self care and boundaries are kind of the top um, thing for me because um, I grew up with an alcoholic father, a mom just struggling to make things work, keep the family together, kind of thing. So I learned early on to be, available to help wherever I can and go over and above to, a bit of a people pleaser in that. And over my time in work and in life in general, I've learned that sometimes you have to have boundaries. And, like you said earlier, you can only work as hard as your client. And then, like I said, uh, getting to the privilege of spending time with some matriarchs in community here in that and seeing how they can pull people together and yet still set boundaries in a kind way and um, has it just really I try to live by that now. I try to incorporate that into the work that I do and be mindful of that because if we want to start healing our communities and having healthy communities, that includes everybody. That includes those that maybe are in addictions or struggling with kids with behaviors that or designations at school, learning disabilities, ADHD, neurodivergence, that kind of stuff. We have to be mindful that people have things going on in their life, and to see the matriarchs be able to pull those people in and set boundaries around how we behave if we're doing something in the big house, how we behave if we're out on the land, is just something that I really observe and take to heart and do my best to try and live that out myself. And some of it's kind of selfish because I think one day I'm going to be a granny, and I want I want to be a cycle breaker, and I want
Mm.
my grandkids to have that safe space to feel free, to feel like they can be their authentic self.
Mm.
And alongside with that, my husband is a hereditary chief, with Mabalelakla and with We Would Come. And so I do take that role as being a chief's wife seriously, and part of that is learning to do that, bring people together, and
Mm.
behave like a matriarch, present myself like a matriarch. Yeah, so I yeah, I do. I just really I take it kind of personally, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I really really appreciate that, and I've had a lot of opportunities in my life to pay my respects to the matriarchs in my life, and I always look to them, throughout my life, whether it would be my mom, or my grandma, or some of those community members who, um and yet again, we always hear, it takes a village to raise a child, and I'm always so happy to share that I'm a byproduct of that,
Mm-hmm.
because not only did I have like amazing parents to help raise me, but I had, my father's cousin, my we called her Mona Mommy,
Mm-hmm.
because she was that second mom for so many other children around the reserve. And thinking of, even on my mom's side of my family, my auntie Jackie, I had, got to spend quite a bit of time at my grandma's house, and my auntie was often the one who was caring for me. And thinking of, even some of my older cousins who were like babysitters for me, and so have had such a rich upbringing by so many amazing women. And
Mm-hmm.
and I really, wanted, and very fortunate enough that, um I have the opportunity to, walk alongside, some amazing women on our team here at
Mm-hmm.
Checking In as well. And I was saying to Sean, when we were the on the road back in, the summer back in 2025, when we had the opportunity to come to your office, and we were leaving and making our journey back towards home, and yeah, I had that same kind of reflection, because we over the two day trip that we had, we met with, a lot of the health staff in a few communities along the way, and they were all matriarchs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, it's not by chance that things are like this. Our women are always the ones who are there to help care for our people,
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that our people are taken care of. And so it's, a big thank you, Heichka, to you for being that support person in community for your people and for your family, and for all the nieces and nephews, and future grandchildren, and
Mm-hmm.
all of that amazing stuff. And yeah, so thank you for sharing your heart too. And that really resonates with me, and brings up a lot of those, warm thoughts of my childhood, of being raised by all those amazing women.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think like before colonization and that, it was women that were keeping the nations together in that, right? And seeing the gifts in different family members in that, and grooming and kind of guiding them to be those people for the community. and I think sometimes we've strayed away from that, and so I think it's really important to get to know community, see those that have those gifts, and kind of nurture those a little bit. And I feel like that's what I have been privileged to do. There's some ladies here in community that have seen something in me and have kind of taken me under their wing to be like, we laugh around all the time because Lorraine Henderson is always like, Dianna, I have an idea. And next thing you know, I'm swangled into this huge undertaking that we're going to do. And here I am, okay, yeah, let's go. And,
Mm,
jump right on board and help out and do what we can. And um, yeah, and that's just an honor and that is my gift. I love to organize. I love to bring people together. I love to entertain. And, I may not be fully into culture, like dancing or, knowing a whole ton about traditional medicine and that. But we ultimately can't teach any of that stuff if we can't bring the people together. So, um, yeah, I feel like that's my contribution.
mm. Oh, that's so awesome. Yeah, you gotta have those idea people, and have that person who's got ideas, and you get to be the person to be there to help bring those ideas to making them a reality.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
always fun. I'm always the ideas person. I don't always I'm not always the one to I'm just the catalyst to get things going, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
You know. Yeah, and I was just thinking of you know, we always have those opportunities to have amazing teachings shared with us, and we've shared stories here today. And I was going to ask you if you could share any words of advice or any teachings with our listeners here today.
oh my goodness, tough question. Tough question, George. um Words of wisdom. I just really, the thing that comes to mind is really just being kind. Like, I just sometimes can't stress it enough. I say it in our meetings, in that, that sometimes, we have to have hard conversations, and sometimes we have to, call people out
Mm,
um, on certain behaviors. We have to set boundaries, but we can be kind about it. It doesn't have to be your fault, you did this to me, kind of thing. Um, and it's only been a short time in my life and I'm still learning how to navigate that sometimes, right? To be able to address my own feelings and my own needs, and be able to communicate that in a kind way that keeps the relationship together. It doesn't break the relationship. It doesn't cause a divide amongst a group or amongst a family member. Um, yeah, so just kind of finding those kind words to
mm,
to express yourself rather than lashing out, or responding in anger and resentment. And that's why those, being able to set boundaries and do self-care and self-reflection and that are so important, so you can keep in mind what the bigger picture is here. The bigger picture is, building a healthy community. um, yeah, everybody be kind.
mm. Yeah, kindness does go a long way for sure.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that teaching, and sharing the stories today, and sharing some of your thoughts on the work that we have at checking in, and that connection that we were able to make, and really appreciate the heart that you carry and the work that you do. And yeah, I want to thank the listeners for continuing to come back and hearing all these amazing conversations that I get to have with a lot of amazing people. And thank you all so much. And I hope to catch you all in the next episode. Take care, everyone. Aichka. Ewer.